Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sir Hunt on X on this Wednesday, the 12th of November of the calendar year 2025. Coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Warmer weather finally coming through here in the tri-state after the Arctic blast had hit us over the last couple of days. Warmer weather, and it's supposed to be actually warmer throughout the weekend. Get out and enjoy this because the winter weather is going to be becoming more constant. While I was over here in the low to mid 50s, go out there and enjoy it. That's what I have to say, because I'll be doing that here tonight after I produce my show. Lots to get to here tonight, including a wild night in Miami between two all-time greats who established themselves in history forever. I'll touch on that at the end of the show. But of course, with Wednesday, it's always pick-em week for the games in the NFL season. This week, it is week 11. Lots of clearing up, but also a lot of teams still on the bubble. I'll try to break this down the best I can. Of course, it's the Thursday night game that's taking place in Foxborough between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. The story of this one going in, the Jets, of course, have their two-game winning streak against the two Ohio teams, Cleveland and Cincinnati. But last time I checked, New England isn't in the state of Ohio. It's in the northeast in Foxborough, Massachusetts. A team that's playing pretty darn well with their quarterback, Drake May, who's coming along as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Travion Henderson was just a lightning bolt out of the backfield Sunday in Tampa Bay. And you talk about that defense, defensive coordinator Terrell Williams has ran an outstanding scheme with a 3-4 defense with guys like Milton Williams and Harold Landry. While the attention is focused on the Drake May, and rightfully so, that defense needs to be paid a little attention to. One of the better ones we're talking about, 8th overall in terms of total defense yards allowed per game, and among the tops in third down defense, meaning they get off the field when it comes to third downs. Might be trying to put a little attention to how that Patriots defense has been winning games for them. I get it, Drake May is going to get all the love, rightfully and understandably so, but the defense needs to give them some credit, and against an offense as anemic as the Jets, this one has all the makings of a wipeout. But, I'm not going to go that far because it's a divisional game. New England's played pretty darn well. A letdown might be coming soon, but I don't expect it to be tomorrow night. And I expect the Patriots to handle business on their home field. Drake May is just cooking right now. That defense is playing lights out. Mike Vrabel, a coach of the year candidate. That continues. Give me the New England Patriots at home, probably by about 2 touchdowns. Now you talk about the overseas game that's taking place in Spain. That's between the Washington Commanders and the Miami Dolphins. No Jaden Daniels, obviously. He's going to be out for a few weeks. Marcus Mariota is going to come in. The problem is Washington's defense can't do anything. And you're playing against a Miami team who should be feeling a little confident after upsetting Buffalo this past Sunday. I expect that momentum to continue for Miami. Give me the Dolphins on this one. And I think this one won't be close. As long as Tua doesn't become Tua turn the ball over, they're going to be fine. Just give them a heavy dose of Devon Achane, who I think is going to run wild like he did last week. And for your fantasy owners, play Devon Achane. He's going to get you the points. Give me Miami on this one and give me them big. Now we go to the early slate games. Going to touch on some of the bigger ones because a couple of these are a bit in the irrelevant stage. A bit of a good one here in Minnesota. It is the Bears and the Vikings. Vikings just fell off the map on offense Sunday against Baltimore. And J.J. McCarthy's getting it from every angle, rightfully so, because those interceptions he threw, I have no idea what he was thinking. And especially when we have a premier receiver like Justin Jefferson, you just find ways to get him the ball. And that didn't happen Sunday against Baltimore. Going against the Chicago Bears team who's won every single which way imaginable possible. And I'll be the first to admit I'm starting to warm to Caleb Williams a little bit. Just need to tell the guy to stop painting his nails. But I think this one here, I think Minnesota's defense gets going and gets back on track a little bit. Remember, they found a way to slow down Caleb Williams in the season opener. I expect that defense to come through again. And I think this time, the J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota offense gets Justin Jefferson going, and I think that's going to be the difference. Do you give me Minnesota on their home field? I think this one's going to come down to the wire. It's going to come down to who turns the ball over less because both quarterbacks last couple of weeks, especially last week when it comes to J.J. McCarthy, have been turnover prone. We're about to find out. Do give me Minnesota at home. I think this one's a coin flip. Good one in the NFC North. And of course, the big one for the locals here, it's Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Part 2 of the icy hot bowl between Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. Second game, a rematch of the game of the year that took place October 16th, where I was at and had the privilege to enjoy probably the most thrilling game of the NFL season so far. And I expect it to continue here. But this time, I think the Steelers will be better prepared for Joe Flacco, especially given after what took place Sunday night with them, that defense and Aaron Rodgers and that loss to the Chargers. I expect to be another game of the year candidate because one defense doesn't know how to tackle statues to save his life, and the other one, I mean, they know how to tackle but doesn't want to do it. I mean, it's going to come down to who wants to make the tackles, who wants to make the stops. I think the Joe Flacco story has been absolutely phenomenal here at Cincinnati, especially you watch his press conference today. He said it straight up. I mean, we talked about his career, and I liked it. He said, I was sitting on the bench, and I thought just sitting on the bench, it was going to be the end for me. When they traded me here, I kept my career going. And as I said, the real Joe, as in Joe Flacco, has carried this Bengals offense every single which way possible. It's just that the defense can't stop a lick. I mean, as I said before, if you put 11 traffic cones against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, those 11 traffic cones would hang 70 on that Bengals defense. That's how bad it is. But just want to touch on Joe Flacco real quick. I'll touch on Joe Burrow in a second. But back to this. The Steelers defense is going to make just enough plays this time to get the job done. It's going to be another game of the year like the one here in Cincinnati last month, except this time, Pittsburgh's going to make just enough plays just to get the job done. I know a lot of Pittsburgh fans are worried about Joe Flacco because everybody remembers him. In Baltimore, he's had big games against the Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised if he had another one. But can that Bengals defense actually stop 11 traffic cones to save their lives? The obvious answer is no. So give me Pittsburgh at home. This one on a coin flip because I don't trust either team. And I understand why Steelers fans don't trust them. I wouldn't, especially after how you guys laid that egg in LA Sunday night. But you guys are going to find a way to get this win. Probably the most winnable game on either team's schedule coming up. Because look at the schedules coming up for these two teams. Good luck trying to find a win. But Pittsburgh wins this one at home, albeit by a pinch. It is Green Bay against the Giants. We know what happened in New York. Brian Daboll got fired, which was 2 years after its expiration date. It should have been done 2 years ago. And now you get Mike Kafka over here, who can't coach, but is put in a tough predicament. Playing against the Green Bay Packers, who is one of those good teams that you can't figure out. Because 1 minute they're ready to stomp the NFC and represent them in the Super Bowl, and the next minute they look like they're ready to tank for a draft pick. I can't even figure this team out. With all that talent, you should be stomping guys all over the place, but you're not. But your luck out here is you're facing a Giants team who's probably going to tank for a top 3 pick at this point. And Green Bay wins this one big, but still lots of questions need to be answered about this Packers team. I know a lot of Green Bay fans, especially the ones I've talked to and talked with in the past, have called for Matt LaFleur to have his job, canned. I get it, but I don't know where that's going to get you. But I understand your frustration with Matt LaFleur, and at the same time, you're 4-1. You're still second place in that NFC North. You do have the tiebreakers. You still got to play the division down the line. Let's see what happens. But you get back on track with the win here. And the next game, of course, is Houston at Tennessee. No C.J. Stroud, but probably Davis Mills is going to play again. We had the Davis Mills legacy game last week against the Jaguars. I don't think it's going to matter here because I think whoever they can put a statue of quarterback, they'll find a way to beat the Tennessee Titans. Titans are just crashing and burning right now. Probably full-scale rebuild, which they have to do at this point. But Houston riding that momentum after the big win over Jacksonville and the Davis Mills legacy streak continues. Give me Houston on the road. Chargers at the Jaguars. This is a rematch of what took place 3 years ago in the AFC wildcard game, where the Chargers intentionally blew a 30-0 lead. And some way, somehow, they wanted to keep Brandon Staley, but they let him fly back home, which I said they should have made him walk from Jacksonville to LA after intentionally blowing a 31-0 lead, because that's what happened. This is a rematch of this one. Of course, the way the Jaguars melted down in that fourth quarter against the Texans, I wonder what's going to be the carryover of that. But that's why I called them the Jacksonville Jag frauds, because that's what they are at the moment. Because I never trusted Trevor Lawrence, especially with the contract he got. And talking about the Jacksonville defense, who's had the personnel to do something, but one of the worst in terms of rushing the quarterback. And you're playing against a Chargers team who lost their top two offensive linemen, and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. And if you can't rush the passer, you're not going to get anything done, especially against a quarterback like Justin Herbert. And on this one, do give me the Chargers on the road. I think they're trying to make amends for what took place 3 years ago when they intentionally blew that 31-0 lead. Let me know Bloom leads this one, because I think Chargers are going to go over there and handle business. It's a cross-country trip. I understand how cross-countries work, west to east and vice versa. But the way Jacksonville is likely going to be after the meltdown in Houston Sunday, I don't know how that's going to be carried over. A lot of people aren't riding the Jaguars bandwagon. I haven't. So the Chargers, give me the Chargers on this one on the road. Pretty darn good game. But Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, is it the lesser of two evils? Still give me Justin Herbert on this one. And a real good one, a real bit of a litmus test for these two teams coming off a tough losses last week. Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield after having opportunities to beat the Patriots and couldn't get it done. And that weird fourth down throw, I don't know what he was thinking on that pass, going against the Buffalo Bills, who got punked in Miami. I mean, this had the makings of some kind of a Super Bowl preview, some kind, but maybe some flaws were exposed on both teams a little bit. What do you think about this? Now, I get it. Tampa Bay doesn't have Mike Evans, one of their top wide receivers, but Emeka Egbuka has just filled that void perfectly. I expect Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka get going, because remember, that's Buffalo defense just got lit up by Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle until he went to turn the ball over. This game is going to come down to who wants it more, because Tampa Bay is trying to hold off the NFC South and still be a factor in the NFC, while everybody in Buffalo is basically saying the wheels are falling off. Well, they haven't. I mean, I know you're a game and a half behind the New England Patriots, and you lost a tiebreaker because the Patriots stomped you on your home field, but this season is far from over. This is going to come down to who do I trust more in this game, because both teams are going to be desperate to bounce back. Going to be either Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield. This one on a coin flip, I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. It's going to come down to the wire. The Buffalo defense has a lot of questions to have to answer after what took place Sunday in Miami, especially when you consider what took place the week before when they rose up and made life heck for the Kansas City Chiefs. For you to lay an egg against the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday and going against a Tampa Bay team who's going to be desperate for a win, a lot of questions have to be answered, and they need to be raised that require answers, simply because that defense just no-showed against the Miami Dolphins, a team that the Bills have handled handily over the last 3 to 4 years. So on this one, give me Tampa Bay on a coin flip. This one could go either way, but this might be the game of the early slate, because you have two teams who are pegged as supposed conference favorites, desperate for a win, and a high marquee matchup. May the best team win this one. So that takes care of your early slate games, the 1 o'clock slate games. Now we go to the late games, or the 4 o'clock slate. Actually, a good one in the NFC West might be the game of the day. The Seattle Seahawks against the Los Angeles Rams. Everybody talks about Sam Darnold to Jackson Smith to Najee, that quarterback to wide receiver duo, probably the best in the NFL at the moment, and they're winning games of that. But people need to start paying attention to that defense. It's basically just wreaking havoc and cleaning house with guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and Byron Murphy on the defensive front. And they're doing a lot of damage. Going against the LA Rams, Matthew Stafford is an MVP candidate, playing just lights out football right now, even at this stage of his career. Question was going to the season where he was going to be healthy. He showing when he's healthy, he's as good as anyone, and he's an MVP candidate right now. This one is going to come down to who's going to make the most plays on the defensive side, because both defenses play lights out when they're on. Let's talk about with Seattle's defensive front. You talk about guys with the Rams, guys like Brad Fisk, Jared Verse, and especially Byron Young. It's going to come down to which defense can make the other offense make mistakes. But right now, there's something special going on in Seattle with that defense. And don't think for 1 second, the people of Baltimore wish Mike Macdonald stayed with them, because his defensive imprint has made an impact in Seattle, and that is going to continue with this one. Give me the Seahawks on the road. This one is going to be tough. Actually, they had it as I'm looking at the line here. It's +3. I think it'll be decided either way. But give me the Seahawks and a shocker in LA. The 49ers and the Cardinals. Arizona's just falling on tough times right now. San Fran, coming off the tough loss to LA. I think they bounce back. Give me San Fran on the road. Arizona's just a hot mess right now. Basically, you're talking about a team that's just got punked by Seattle all over the place, and it's basically had some bad losses, especially the one at Tennessee where they just self-destructed with mental errors. At this point, you are who you are at the end of the day, as Bill Parcells would eloquently say when it comes to your record, and that's where the Arizona Cardinals are. San Francisco wins this one. I think this one's going to be convincing. Give me Mac Jones over Jacoby Brissett. And it's Baltimore over against Cleveland. We know how these two teams play, especially in the AFC North. One interesting tidbit, they've split the last 5 years season series. Baltimore's already won the first one at Baltimore. And the way they're rolling right now, you would think they would just ease their way into a win over a Cleveland team that's tanking. I'm leaning toward Baltimore, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think, because that Cleveland defense is going to be up and ready for it. And that Baltimore defense played good, but not great when they beat Minnesota. But they're lucky they're playing against an offense that's sort of plummeted a little bit. So the Cleveland defense is going to find ways to hang around. And the Baltimore offense didn't necessarily play all that great either. They settled for 5 field goals, even though they won the game because they just made life terrible for J.J. McCarthy. This game is going to be closer than people think, but Baltimore is going to win this game. I said they were going to likely could possibly run the table to win the AFC North. They're the favorites right now after the slow start. I expect the momentum to continue. Tougher than expected game because the Browns defense can play, and I expect the Cleveland defense to do everything they can to slow down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but the Baltimore offense will do just enough to get the win, and that's what it's going to come down to. And probably the game of the late slate is Kansas City at Denver. What I'm trying to figure out is why in the world the Broncos fans flexing a Week 18 win from last season when you're playing 7th-string Walmart employees. I didn't say Walmart employees. I said 7th-string Walmart employees. You beat them a team of 7th-string Walmart employees 30-0 last season in the season finale. That's not going to attribute to anything this season. Your defense is lights out. I said probably the most talented defense top to bottom on that roster in the NFL. And there's no denying that. I mean, look at that personnel and look at how they run the schemes. If I'm correct, I think the team leads the league in sacks, if I'm correct. And you may or may not get Patrick Surtain back. I don't know. But you're playing a Kansas City team who's coming off a bye and just had a tough loss against Buffalo where they had to answer every question in the book from the coaching staff to the players. And the history is Andy Reid has always been good after buys, does a wonderful job preparing the teams. And this one here, I don't expect anything different. This one's going to be a pretty darn good game. Certainly, probably like the first game last year where it came down to a game-winning blocked field goal where Denver's defense corralled Kansas's offense the best they could, but still managed to lose. I expect that type of game this time around. At this time, Kansas City is going to get the win. I think it's going to come down to a game-winning field goal either way. Give me Kansas City on the road. This one is going to be pretty darn good. A typical AFC West showdown. These two teams are going to be duking it out for that division title for the rest of the season. Interesting tidbit I did not know. I read about this earlier. This is a more must-win for Kansas City than people think. You're talking about a team who has an 84% chance to win to go to the playoffs with a win, and a 55% chance if they lose. And we talk about just how well Denver's played in the AFC West right now before this. That's why it's a bigger win for must-win for Kansas City. And I expect them to buckle down and get the job done, because these moments like this, historically, is where teams like that always thrive. So give me Kansas City, and I think this one's going to be pretty darn close. And the Sunday night game is the Detroit at Philadelphia. Weird win by Philadelphia over Green Bay Sunday night. Going against a Detroit team who's going on back-to-back road games. Coming off the solid win in Washington. The sort of thing here is, I don't expect Philly to play bad 2 weeks in a row. I think this one has the makings of a shootout, but I think Philadelphia finds a way to get the win at home. This one's going to be a shootout either way. The game of the night, take your pick on this one. But give me Philly at home. I can't see him playing bad on offense 2 consecutive weeks. Not possible. Going to be probably a 35-30-ish type ball game, but I'm taking I'm taking Philly at home. And the Monday night game, nothing to talk about with this one, is the Cowboys and the Raiders. I mean, if we didn't have Dak Prescott on the Cowboys, this game might be worth talking about. I said the reason why Dallas is going to win. Dak Prescott, he's had an MVP type season. We look at his numbers, but the team is just middle of the pack. Especially when we talk about that defense playing, that team playing like the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals. Superb on offense, terrible on defense. But it's not going to matter with this one. The Raiders are just falling off the map. Cowboys are going to score every single which way possible, and I expect Dallas to win this one big. So those are the picks for the Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night games for Week 11. Few ones I had to pick on a coin flip, because we're getting to that time of the season where games are going to be harder to pick, especially talking about the ones where teams are playing so well against teams that are tanking, because there's a one moment. That's why they call it any given Sunday. Things can happen. I mean, on the surface, you think it's easy to pick, but it really isn't. Now to the big news earlier the other day here in Cincinnati. I'll touch on this briefly. It's revealed that Joe Burrow is now on the designated to return from IR list. Got a couple workouts in. Of course, the cowardice of the Bengals fans and Cincinnati media making a big deal out of videos. You can have all your exercise videos all you want. I mean, I'm 47. I can do half the stuff he does on an exercise routine. If the guy manages to come back, how is he going to look on the field? Because I said before, you can sit down as long as you want. You can't simulate in-game speed with practice, especially if you're coming off a turf toe the way this guy has. Now, of course, here's a caveat everybody misses. He's targeting he wants to come back Week 13, the Thursday night game at Baltimore. But it was also revealed the status of the Bengals season is going to dictate whether he comes back this season or not. But theoretically, if he does, it's going to be Week 14 at Buffalo. Problem is likely the season's going to be done at that point, because they have a defense that can't tackle 11 statues to save their lives. As I said before, when it comes to this Bengals defense, you can put 11 statues, 11 traffic cones, 11 laptops, 11 houses, 11 ghosts, or you can just put nothing against the Bengals defense, and the Bengals defense will find a way to give up 70. That's how bad it is, and that's another disaster waiting to happen, because that's how they're going to miss the playoffs for a third straight year. Now, theoretically, I'll play their game for 1 minute. Some way, somehow, they managed to beat Pittsburgh, New England, and Baltimore, which is a gauntlet. It's Joe Burrow somehow manages to come back. Let's see how good he looks. And can he learn from what Joe Flacco's done? Because one thing, Joe Burrow, I wish he did like Joe Flacco was doing, get the ball out quickly enough to get his playmakers going. That's the biggest difference between Joe Flacco and Joe Burrow. Because Joe Flacco, who's done it for the longest time, sees everything. He's been at it for 18 years. Some of the things that Joe Burrow still struggles to see. Now we talk about him coming back this season. I've still been on the cost side of sit this guy regardless. And if I'm Joe Burrow, I know deep down he wants to come back, and I understand it. If they're close to being out of the playoffs, which they probably will be after New England and Baltimore thrash them, If I'm Joe Burrow and the Bengals ask me if I want to come back, I'm telling the Bengals brass, I'm good. And I'm not even stepping a foot on the Bengals field if I'm Joe Burrow until the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media stop acting like cowards, until ownership puts together a team, an offensive line that will protect the quarterback, and a defense that puts together a winning product. Because if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm not touching anything with this franchise anymore. I wouldn't. Now, does it mean is he going to demand a trade? I don't think so, because he's going to finish out his contract because that's how he is. But I'm telling everybody, if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm good. I'm in great spirits. I'm working fine. You guys just go ahead with the season because Joe Burrow deserves better than what the Bengals fans have given him. Joe Burrow deserves better than what the Cincinnati media has given him. And he certainly deserves better than what Zach Taylor and the ownership has given him in terms of a competitive roster, because he hasn't had it since he went to the Super Bowl in 2021. I'm just taking my sweet little old time coming back to this clown show and the circus act that's the Cincinnati Bengals and the cowards known as the Cincinnati Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media. I wouldn't want to be part of that if I were him, because I saw his Halloween costume. He looked like he's enjoying himself off the field. Stay enjoying yourself, young man, because this dumpster fire that's going on here in Cincinnati started with the Bengals fans. I would want to be a part of it if I were you. I mean, even I have a bent pinky finger, I have a bent thumbnail, I'll be telling them, I'm taking my time coming back. It's going to be a bit. I'm fine. Joe Burrow should be doing that exact same thing with this dumpster fire that's going on here in Cincinnati, because the Bengals fans ruined it. Cincinnati media ruined it. Let's start with that. Take your time coming back. If you want to come back, great. If you don't want to come back, I'm good with it, because you deserve to come back healthy to a real roster, a real fan base, and a real media. And that's something Cincinnati has not provided you since they drafted you in 2020. You deserve much better than that. Plain and simple. Now it takes care of the NFL segment. News out of the NBA. And this one, we knew it was coming, but should have taken place long before it did. The Dallas Mavericks telling Nico Harrison to get out. Question I have is, why the hell you would set a press conference to announce it, have a set press conference with a set time to announce he is out of here? Because everybody knew his 5 minutes of fame were up. What he did in February, and we know what he did with that probably the worst trade in sports history. So don't know. Luka Doncic from Dallas to LA for Anthony Davis and a bunch of I don't know who the hell you are type players. And when you make that kind of a trade and you say the things you do at press conferences and to people, and you should be, it should have just resigned at that point. I mean, it should have never came down to the Dallas brass setting up a timed press conference to announce to the world, we're firing this guy. And that was probably a big of a circus than what took place with the actual firing. Is you announce a firing on a set time press conference where you want to announce it to the world, where all you should do was tell the guy, get out, announce your GM, and move on. How they did it was as big of a circus as when Nico Harrison made the Luka Doncic trade. And that's why that organization as a whole is every bit of a circus act still. Not just how they went about it or how they did about the Luka Doncic trade or how they let Nico Harrison do what he did, but how they let him out, turn the thing into a circus. We had a timed press conference, a scheduled press conference at a set time to tell the whole world you fired him. Or you just put a pressure and say, we relieve Nico Harrison of his duties. I don't know if you need to fire a guy, tell the guy he's fired 30 minutes after you tell him he's fired through a press conference. That's every bit the circus that the trade was. Leave it to the Dallas Mavericks to put this kind of a circus before the Luka Doncic trade, during the Luka Doncic trade, and before and after the Nico Harrison tenure as a GM of the Dallas Mavericks. What a circus act. Okay, you're going to tell me I'm fired from a job, but you're going to tell me 30 minutes afterwards so you can tell the whole world at a press conference. Why don't you just fire me right now to save you the time? I mean, give me a break. Why would you tell somebody he's fired 30 minutes before you tell the whole world he's fired? What was obtained out of that? I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. Nico Harrison deserves it because of what he did and how he did it. But I'm not sure the Dallas Mavericks organization should be given the pass they're given because of how they went about it. They turned the whole thing into a circus. Basically, if I was Nico Harrison at that point, I would have just simply said, "I'm out." I should have just quit when they announced to the whole world he was going to be fired in the middle of a press conference. He blew that one also. But I'd be surprised if this guy ever lands another job in the NBA unless it's with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, apparently, he's supposedly a favorite to get the GM job with New Orleans, but I don't know if that's going to be the answer. Weird business in this world these days, I tell you. And it's gotten weirder and weirder every year it goes by. And speaking of the NBA, one last hearing of the voice of the great Marv Albert last night, who did the intros to both the Sixers, Celtics, and the Nuggets Kings for the network he was a mainstay for many years, the NBA on NBC. Perfectly fit for him because he was the one that brought the NBA on NBC on the map, injected nostalgia with all of the calls, all of the yeses, and among many things. Guy's 84 years old, and he still has some knowledge of the sport. That should tell you something right there about Marv Albert. Yeah, he had whatever the frick he did to get himself canned, wind up in the legal system, which, again, it's so weird, I don't even know how to talk about it. But just the fact that he's a part of the NBA family still, after all these years, tells you just the impact he made, not just with the league, but in sports broadcasting. People forget, this guy did boxing in NFL also, every bit just as big in those as he was with the NBA, which we know the NBA has always been a strong suit since NBC, when he took over NBC in 1990 and elevated that to new heights and the mainstream as we know it. And of course, bringing back the NBA and NBC with that theme song, injects nostalgia, perfect for the older heads who wanted all that nostalgia, like myself, to have Marv Albert hear Marv Albert's voice on the NBA and NBC probably for the last time. Just a great nostalgic moment. Yeah, the guy's voice doesn't sound like it used to be, but the guy's 84 years old. So what do you want of the guy? I mean, him and the NBA and NBC was a hand and glove fit. And certainly one of the terrific play-by-play guys in all of sportscasting, not just the NBA, because he did other sports also, the NFL and boxing when they were on NBC and was the mainstream sport on that network for the longest time. So glad to hear the great Marv Albert, likely for the last time, one of the premier play-by-play voices in sports history. Now we get to the wild night in Miami. And this took place 43 years ago tonight. And a fight built as the Battle of the Champions. And we had two champions who were looking to make history of some kind. And boy, the world was treated to a delight, but was also treated to a bunch of everything else before and after that had some wild circumstances. This was the first of two fights between a Cincinnati icon named Aaron Pryor and the gentleman and the charm of one of the premier elegant technicians ever, Alexis Arguello. Aaron Pryor basically was a homeboy from homebody, if you want to call it that, from Cincinnati for the longest time. And basically most of his fights were here in the Midwest, especially when he filled Riverfront Coliseum, especially the night when he won the junior welterweight title from Antonio Cervantes after he was floored early and was trying to chase a major money payday with Sugar Ray Leonard. Turns out Leonard offered him to fight twice and Pryor ducked it, but was still looking for the respect that he thought he deserved. We consider his amateur background, consider he had an amateur win over the great Thomas Hearns. And getting to the point, enter this phenom from Nicaragua, one of the kindest, charm fighters who was an elegance of beauty, just pure brilliance, pure beauty, who embodied the sweet science, Nicaragua's own Alexis Arguello. Left Nicaragua to live in Miami at the time due to all of the political aspect and the war that took place over there in Miami in Nicaragua, for the longest time. Won world titles in 3 different weight classes. Was looking to become the first to win a world title in fourth weight class to separate himself. It was pegged as a bit of a favorite in this one. And this fight came almost exactly a little more than a year after the giant super fight in the welterweight division between Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns. I mean, there's a lot of curiosity going in as to what we was going to expect. But what we did not know was these two warriors, these two beauties of the sweet science, delivered every bit the goods that Leonard Hearns one delivered September 16, 1981. And this fight basically was a case of who wanted it more. But I can't say that for this because both guys wanted it as bad as each other, and their moments in this fight is showed. The sharpshooter, the sweet sharpshooting of Alexis Arguello versus the hard, effective aggression of the tough Aaron Pryor. That's why they called him the Hulk for a reason. We talk about this fight. Starting off, Pryor comes out as a ball of fire. Looked like he was taking the fight to Alexis, forcing Alexis Arguello to fight a fight he hasn't fought maybe ever, because he made Arguello have to dig deep just to find a way to survive those early rounds because Pryor was coming hard. But of course, we know what happened at the end of round one. The trainer Panama Lewis brings apparently instructs a member of his team to give him a bottle, the one he mixed. There's more on that in a minute. And Pryor, as he was coming on, was throwing punches at all angles, hard punches from all angles. But miraculously, Arguello was still there and still trying his best. But after the fourth or fifth round, a subtle shift in momentum, and now Alexis Arguello starts to show the world why he's Alexis Arguello. And he starts to find the mark. Every time he's throwing, he's landing hard on Pryor. Even Pryor said at one point, he hit him so hard, he thought his head was going to get taken off. And what made Alexis Arguello special, and he showed it in this fight as he was starting to turn the momentum, he was one of those guys that when he threw, he hardly missed. And when he landed, he did damage. That's what made Alexis Arguello a standout in those lighter weight classes, and he showed it in this particular night against the great Aaron Pryor. And as this fight was going on, the exchanges started to get heavy for both fighters. Heavy lumber started to go both ways. And it looked like as the 9th and 10th round started to come on, Pryor found a little bit of a second win. But after that, Arguello found a second win. And it looked like Arguello was going to find his way to victory. But now we enter another instance of this again. In between rounds 13 to 14, caught on audio. Again, the trainer of Aaron Pryor, Panama Lewis, telling one of his assistants, give me the bottle, the one I mixed. And Pryor drinks whatever it is he was drinking. Later revealed, I'll touch on it in a minute, was something for an upset stomach. And so what happens? Out of nowhere, Pryor has a new life of energy and just puts together one of the vicious combinations that pins Arguello against the ropes. The capper was 4 hard right hands, where the third and fourth ones just tilted Arguello's head so far back to where referee Stanley Christodoulou was forced to stop the fight. And then probably really what was the 1982 fight of the year, and a breathtaking fight that had a timeless effect for many, many years. Aaron Pryor, a Cincinnati icon, retains the super lightweight championship over the all-time great Alexis Arguello. And the crowning moment, Aaron Pryor had won it and had fought hard for himself. Lots of places I could go with this, but I'm going to touch on, of course, the number one thing that still hovered this fight for the longest time. Give me the bottle of the one I mixed. Nobody took that bottle, and there was no post-fight drug screening. Apparently, this commission just now put itself together, but they just swept this whole thing under the rug. Didn't bother to do anything after the fight. Now, what was in this bottle, I was able to say, all over the place has been ruled that something called peppermint schnapps was in it, because apparently Aaron Pryor had an upset stomach. Well, when Alexis Arguello was whacking you upside the body a few times like he did, you are going to have an upset stomach. And a lot of things changed after that. I'll touch on Panama Lewis here in a minute because we know the type of a coward he was in the fight game. But the craziest thing was nobody challenged this from from Alexis Arguello point of view. They said, we'll take the loss, but we want another shot to show just to see if you were just better than me or not. Of course, the rematch happened about 9 months later, and Pryor did the same thing, just beat Alexis Arguello from the first round on to get the 10th round knockout. But we talk about two fighters that are made for one another. Even though Aaron Pryor went 2-0 in the series, these two guys were. Now, back to the dark cloud that still hovers over this. If you remember, for those in the fight community, remember the Salt in the Ring documentary when Louis Resto openly said, I drink the stuff Panama Lewis gave to Aaron Pryor. Because that's what he said. He asked Louis Resto what it was, something for asthma, which opens your lungs. And he even said, I drank it. And he said, holy expletive, it felt good. The total incompetence of a commission to just blow this off when it was caught all over the place is still something that raises questions, and it still hovered this dark cloud over this for as long as these two all-time greats, especially Aaron Pryor, lived until Pryor passed in 2016. Because everybody's still asking, is this an asterisk on Aaron Pryor's legacy when you talk about this particular fight and his overall career? Problem was, it was the only fight that it was recorded as, but you have to take the result as a grain of salt for what it's worth, because nothing was done after the fight, which it should have. But it doesn't fall on Aaron Pryor, falls on Panama Lewis, and it falls on all the commissions. Now, spin it off to what took place about 7.5 months later in Madison Square Garden between Louis Resto and Billy Collins Jr. Panama Lewis, the trainer of Louis Resto, with the same trainer as Aaron Pryor, takes the gloves from the commissioner, tells the commissioner, I need 15 minutes, sends the commissioner out the door, cuts the pads off the gloves of Louis Resto, because we have 1 ounce of padding on both sides, and loads the fists of Louis Resto with an illegal object. And what happened? The rest is history. That's brought up because the commission had a chance to sanction Panama Lewis harder, so that didn't happen at Resto Collins, because Billy Collins would probably be alive right now talking about it. And because nobody did the sanctioning, there was a massive ripple and trickle effect that took place when we talk about the sport of boxing from Pryor-Arguello to Resto Collins. And we know what the fight game knows what happened with the Resto Collins fight. Resto gets the win, but discovered the padding was taken out. The wraps were illegally wrapped. And of course, Resto said he drank some of the same stuff Aaron Pryor did in that fight. And that drove to Billy Collins to suicide. Driving his car out, getting fully intoxicated and driving off the cliff at a ditch in Tennessee. The problem with that was the Miami Commission and the Florida State Athletic Commissions had ample opportunities to sanction Panama Lewis and do something about what took place with this illegal object in the Pryor-Arguello fight, but didn't. And because of it, Panama Lewis got away scot-free. And we had the incident that took place 9 months later at Madison Square Garden, where Panama Lewis essentially was just thrown out of the sport, which is probably 9 months too late. That's the legacy of the tainted bottle. It allowed a criminal to go on and try to find other ways to stay active in the game when he should have been outed and sanctioned when he should have on the spot. That is the legacy of Pryor-Arguello 1 when it comes to Panama Lewis. Now we get to these both fighters here real quick. Neither guy's legacy was tainted. If anything, both guys' legacies went up. I said along for Alexis Arguello, top 5 all-time great Latino fighter. You can probably put him number 2 or number 3, however you want to. I put him at number 2 behind Roberto Duran. Some people put Salvador Sanchez over Alexis Arguello. I don't have a problem with it because those 3 guys are the cream of the crop in the Latino community. But I said his legacy was for that one of the premier, ultra-skilled little giants who embodied the sweet science. It was a perfect case of a fighter who knew when to hit you, knew where to hit you, and the timing of it just made it more lethal for him. And by the time he got to this fight, you can probably say he's been on his downturn because he had a hard career with some hard fights in there. Especially talk about ones he had against a guy like Alfredo Escalera and a tough one with Ray Mancini before this. But his legacy was secure regardless, win or loss of this fight. And he's still the embodiment of what the sweet science was, always has that distinction. So his place in history is secure. For Aaron Pryor, the keystone moment of his career that he longed for ran under the suspicion of what Panama Lewis did. I've said on shows, I talk about Cincinnati sports, a Cincinnati icon always has been, always will be. We talk about Ezra Charles, Oscar Robertson, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Barry Larkin, Anthony Munoz, Ken Anderson. I can now add Joe Flacco, Luciano Acosta, and now I can add Aaron Pryor to the list of the Cincinnati icons. Because Aaron Pryor was Cincinnati sports for the time he stepped in the ring. This was after the Big Red Machine and before Ken Anderson took the Bengals to the Super Bowl in '81. Because when he sold out Riverfront Coliseum, we're talking about a packed house, and he knew how to pack the house in Cincinnati for the longest time. And the stature, probably the greatest junior welterweight of all time, even though he didn't won more titles, had the one, beat all the comers in front of him, especially how he did it was something of amazement. We consider how he won the title from Antonio Cervantes, where he was floored on a flash knockdown, only to dominate Cervantes as if that knockdown didn't happen. So his place in history is secure. His place as a Cincinnati icon is forever secure. If we talk about this night of 43 years ago in Miami, Florida, it's going to be all over the place for many, many reasons. You know, from what took place before to during to after to what happened in the rematch to the trainer being allowed to train when he shouldn't have. But these nights always have this timeless effect where every time something like this pops up, always lasts in your memories forever and ever. These two guys put on a whale of a show. And when I say you give an honest effort and lay it all on the line, these two guys did it. Just Aaron Pryor went to the well a little harder. And when he went to the extra well, that was the difference. Nothing against Alexis Arguello, who's a genuine all-time great. But Aaron Pryor wanted this. He wanted the night to show the whole world he was in the fight game, and he showed it. May God rest the souls of both gladiators, two of the premier fighters south of the middleweight division in boxing history. Their legacies are sealed. And for Panama Lewis, this may he be in the flames of hell right now. Okay, look, well, I get the whole bottle thing. The problem was not the fact that happened. The problem was there was no accountability held for it. We had a commission who just swept it under the rug. And because it was swept under the rug the way it was, this guy was allowed to be involved in probably the darkest day in boxing history of June 16, 1983, when he was in the corner of Louis Resto, manipulating the gloves, manipulating his hand wraps, and bringing spiked fluids in a fight against Billy Collins, where it wasn't really a fight. It was a 30-minute assault and a 30-minute killing, near killing, because he basically had no padding. He basically fought with bare knuckles covered in red gloves. That's what it was. And for him to be allowed to even train or even be allowed as a sanctioned trainer in a locker room after what took place in the court of Aaron Pryor was a disgrace to the boxing commissions all over the place that refused to do anything about it. And because of it, there was a fighter 9 months after Pryor-Arguello who basically, I won't say lost his life in the ring, but started the end of his life after that fight. If I encourage everyone to watch Assault in the Ring to see the impact that Panama Lewis had in driving a young kid, a 24-year-old kid out of Nashville, Tennessee named Billy Collins to kill himself. That falls on Panama Lewis, who was a coward, who was a scumbag, and we have cowards like Michael Morley who back him because he's a coward himself. And Panama Lewis, this history will always be doing everything he can by hook or by crook to please drug traffickers, because that's what he did with the Russell Collins fight, as the documentary will show. And it was him who wanted to make his imprint on the sport, as Teddy Atlas and Sugar Ray Leonard said on the documentary of Pryor-Arguello. And because he wanted to make an imprint, the rest is history. And it's a history that's not going to ever be kind for Panama Lewis, because you're talking about one of the real scumbags in the game. Luckily, when I was involved in it, the guy was basically irrelevant. I mean, the only fight I can remember him training was Obacar in Mexico in a loss to Felix Trinidad in 1994. But when I was there and I learned about it, that's what I learned. You see all the scumbags that go on in the fight community and all over the world. And as Teddy Atlas once said about this, the world is a cynical place where he had the stuff going on. And because of it, that's what drove Panama Lewis to do what he did. What was the reasons for it? Just because he was a crooked coward. In a sport that has a lot of those, and it's had a lot of them when I was in it, and I studied it, and it's probably still are now, but not like what it was back then. Panama Lewis, I hope you burn in hell, my man. I should call you my man. I should just call you every other expletive in the book, but I won't use my platform for it. What you did to on this night with Eric Pryor, followed 9 months later to drive a kid to kill himself, you're a walking disgrace. And I hope you're in hell right now. Said it had to come down to that. And it was Panama, for everybody knows, this falls on Panama Lewis, not on Aaron Pryor. Everybody's putting it on Aaron Pryor. What the guy's supposed to do? What the guy was supposed to do? Say, I can't drink it? I mean, the guy's trying to win a fight, for crying out loud. This falls on why Panama Lewis, a real coward and scumbag in the fight community, to do what he did. And we know what happened 9 months after that in Las Vegas, in New York City. I apologize. Actually, I can't wait till I talk about... Actually, what I'm going to do, for those of you who follow me on the X platform, I'm going to pull up my Assault in the Ring documentary. I had one of my first real shows on. You guys can go ahead and watch it to learn about what the legacy of Panama Lewis was. And it certainly was not a good one. Because what he did on that night, the world lost Billy Collins Jr., a talented young man, because he was driven to fulfill a void to a drug dealer. Think about that for a minute. So this doesn't fall on Aaron Pryor, doesn't fall on Alexis Arguello. Panama Lewis wanted to be a part of it, put his name into it. It did. And now, his legacy, hopefully he's in the flames of hell. Case closed. And on that note, that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. Yeah, I got a little emotional, but when you talk about Panama Lewis in the fight game, he's going to drive you to that point. That's not who I am. I try to take the high road, but because I was in that fight game, when it comes to Panama Lewis, I'll always be like that. That'll wrap up this edition of the show tonight. No show until Monday, as I start the process of rebranding. And as always, make self-care your number one priority in all walks of life. If you take care of yourself first, all the good things will come your way. If you don't take care of yourself first, nothing else matters. Always focus on you, take care of you, and all the good things will come. Because nothing else should matter. If you missed this show or any other shows I did in the past, you can catch them on the Apple Podcast, the iHeartRadio, and the Spotify apps. Also, after the new year, the Patreon app will be launched with lots of articles and opinions and replays of my shows. That's going to be launched here after the new year. It's in the works. As a result, that'll do it for the night and the weekend. For my NFL followers, enjoy Week 11. For my fight followers, I know there's a big fight coming up with the next at the end of the week. I can't remember what it was. Leading up next week, I will preview Devin Haney versus Brian Norman. Have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless. Enjoy the evening. Enjoy the weekend. I will see you Monday.